Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice,
and encouragement.
Encouragement. Thank you. To help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsian, and joining me today is Dylan Dodson.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. And today we're talking about 3 tips to using Facebook Live.
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit of our journey and then kind of tips for it. And again, with the disclaimer that social media is changing constantly. So if you're listening to this, even like 3 months after the fact that it came out, things could be different.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Right. But these are some tips and some things that we've learned. We've done Facebook Live, I don't know, consistently try to do it for maybe 9 months or so now. So we've tried different things. So we just want to share what we've learned and then hopefully help you implement some of them as well.
Yep.
When we started, we did it kind of somewhat sporadically, but we also try to do kind of more spiritually, theologically theologically driven content.
Yeah.
And if you've listened to previous episodes on this podcast, and we've talked about how engaging content online should be your number one priority, not necessarily theologically deep, because you want to engage people and bring them in, but those are other episodes you can find. And so what we actually found was instead of doing kind of deep theological questions, not that they're wrong or bad, but when we actually had engaging content that people liked, that's when they actually listened.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about that, and that is actually our first point when it comes to tips for using Facebook Live.
Look at that.
So you want to create engaging content. Not that you can't talk about stuff about Jesus, but again, if you're trying to reach new people who don't know Jesus, you want to maybe do content that they might even be interested in. Mm-hmm. And so for us, and we'll talk about their schedule in a minute, but every week we're doing content that is like, X amount of, people love lists. So X amount of ways to do a cheap date night, how to do a budget, how to be more hospitable, things, going back to school, it's just stuff like that. Now, the cool thing is sometimes we'll kind of throw in spiritual things here and there, but it's engaging, so people are actually going to listen to it and watch it because they actually want to know what you're going to say.
So, Dylan, let me ask you, we're churches. Is there something wrong with doing something like how many date nights versus, how to read the book of Isaiah?
I think those are both great. Mm-hmm. However, just being honest, even people that go to your church, they are much more likely to watch cheap date nights or how to have date nights than how to read the book of Isaiah. That isn't to say you should never do that, but that, again, if we're trying to do engaging content, that shouldn't be what you primarily do every single time. What you primarily want to do is create engaging content. And even if you want to do Isaiah, instead of saying how to read the book of Isaiah, you could say things like 3 tips for reading the book of Isaiah,
right?
Or 4 things we learned from Isaiah's life. Or you want to set it up as it's like, oh, this is going to be practicable and digestible, and I can actually do it. When you say how to read the book of Isaiah, especially if you're familiar with Isaiah, it's a prophet, there's a lot of confusing things in there, you're just automatically assuming I'm not going to know what they're talking about. But if you set it up as, something that they can actually learn in bite-sized pieces, again, that's engaging. That doesn't even, we're church planters, like that even to me sounds more engaging. 3 things you can learn from the life of Isaiah as opposed to how to read the book of Isaiah. And
if we're being real, if we're talking just about practical content versus, super theologically deep, if that's what most people want to know is how to budget or how to have cheap date nights or how to, these daily things, I think we would all agree we'd rather them get that advice from a church than from just looking online. We'd rather them come to the church for this advice, so why not give it to them?
And that's part of our online engagement strategies. We want people to know if they have questions that they can come to us and we can give them practical and helpful advice. Yeah. And even with, with the budgeting things, like one of the things we did one recently about a month or 2 ago about how to budget, and we talked about generosity, and we were able to talk about the spiritual component of it. However, if we had said, honor Jesus with your money, and that was the thing, we would have had way less views, and nobody would have heard that we were talking about how to be generous. And so again, it's not that you can't be theological and spiritual, but you've got to set it up as a practical way, and you've got to help. Again, this isn't a Sunday message, so it's a little bit different. But you want to kind of meet the felt needs of what people have going on so that, and we've also talked about this in previous messages or episodes, so that people can trust you, that they know that you actually care for them, that you want good for them. And so ultimately, when they do have spiritual questions, they're going to you.
Yeah, and I mean, most people, in regards to having engaging content, most people that are going to watch it because they're scrolling by it and see it. Even if you put out there, say we're going live at noon or we're doing this and putting it out there, most people aren't going to put that on their calendar.
Right.
Most people, the only way they're going to see it is if they're scrolling by and happen to see it. So that title or whatever it is needs to be engaging, or else people are going to keep going.
Exactly. And we even tell people, we'll talk about our schedule in a second, about what we do, but still, it's most of the people that are watching it, either watching it live or after the fact because they see the news feed, they're stopping because it looks like it's going to be something interesting.
Yep.
And so, especially if it's a felt need, but even if it's a theological thing, you want to set it up as engaging, bite-sized, something that I'm actually going to learn. And it's okay if not everything is spiritual.
Yep.
So number 1, you want to create engaging content for anything, but also if you want people to watch you online. You want to do that. And also, before we go to the next one, I think part of it, what we learned too, when it comes to engaging content, Facebook Live is not where people go to watch 30-minute videos or hour-long videos.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And so we used to try to do like 20 minutes, whatever. Now we're at 10 minutes. Again, things may change. Could be different 3 months from now. But our Facebook Live videos are about 10 minutes max, because that's about the most anyone's going to watch on Facebook. So you don't want to make them last forever. That's
very true. I mean, it's not preaching a sermon.
Yes,
I mean, people, if you have something engaging enough and compelling enough for them to stop, scrolling by, they're not going to stop and spend the next 30 minutes of their time watching it. They'll probably stop, and in reality, ours are 10 minutes max, maybe 12. Most people probably watch 5.
Right.
I mean, even that's pretty long to be able to sit there and
because most of the time you're on Facebook, you're on your phone, you've got a few minutes, so you're waiting for the next thing you got to go to. And so if you have this 30-minute thing that no one's going to know where you're talking about, where you left off, it's just really confusing.
Even if you have like the most engaging title and you think this is going to be great, so I'm going to go 30 minutes. Even if someone sees it and thinks, man, this does look good, I want to come back and watch it later, they will forget.
They will.
And it won't happen. So keep it short.
Number 1, engaging content.
Yep.
How long it is has to do with it. Number 2, video quality matters.
It does.
And so we'll talk about, why don't you share a little bit about how, because we've tried different things and now we've actually landed on somewhere that actually is somewhat decent. Why don't you share a little bit about what we do? Just maybe it might be helpful for some people.
Sure. So what we do is we have a camera, obviously here at the church that we use to record services. We use for this, we use for pretty much everything. So we use that camera, and we hook it to a computer. Basically, we use this program called OBS, or Open Broadcaster Service, and it's free. It's an open network thing, and so you can go in, you can download it, you don't have to pay anything. And we connect it with what's called a Blackmagic Ultra Studio mini recorder. It's just this little black box that one side of it hooks into the camera, the other side to the computer. Sounds way simpler than it was. Took us forever to figure out, but we ended up figuring it out. And so that way you can actually use what we have is a 4K camera. Use a 4K camera or a nicer camera to be able to record, and what that does is it shoots it over to the computer. This program makes it so you can stream through Facebook Live, through YouTube Live, through any of these streaming services with some decent quality.
And you can see it on the computer what the camera is.
And you can see it on the computer. So what you're looking at is exactly what's being broadcast. But, however, Facebook exists and they compress your video down. You're never going to broadcast 4K footage on Facebook for people to see.
Yep.
However, it's still going to be it's still going to be a big step up from a phone camera.
Yeah. And as of now, they limited it to 720p.
Yeah.
But it's still a nicer picture than, the back of your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say what that thing was again, and is there a cost to it?
Sure. So the program or the program is called OBS. If you look up OBS software, you'll find it, but it stands for Open Broadcaster Service. And that's free. And then the piece of equipment is not free. It's not terribly expensive, but it's not free. I don't remember exactly how much it costs.
$50 or?
It was something like that. I think it was under 100. And it's a Blackmagic's the company, Blackmagic Ultra Studio mini recorder.
Yeah. And so basically what that allows us to do is to use the computer, because the camera's you can't touch it because it's far away.
Yeah.
And you can start and stop it from your computer, and it allows us to use the computer as opposed to our phones so the picture's better. Mm-hmm. And after the fact, we also upload the video to YouTube.
Yep.
Which also, you could get away, if you're trying to use the video for more than one thing, it's one thing to have a camera doing Facebook Live. People understand your Facebook Live. But if you want to repurpose that content for anything, you've got to use a camera. And so this allows us to use the camera.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this is it also records it to your computer. So you don't have to bother with going and trying downloading it from Facebook. Just kind of takes out an extra step.
Yep.
But it's good. So what I would say is, or I would ask you is, if I'm a church plant, haven't planted yet, or trying to figure all this out and have a small budget, can't afford a 4K camera, can't really afford extra equipment, but... Right. I want to try and engage people online.
Yes.
So what do you think? Should we wait till we have all this equipment?
We always say go for it, and that's part of the process. So you're like, man, I don't have all this stuff. I don't have the budget. You're saying I shouldn't do anything. No, I would use your phone over nothing.
Yep.
But just know that you can get better at it. Part of it is, and not even just like the quality of the video, but like the background, the audio. Like you have to do it in order for you to figure out what looks good. And so for us, like we have it set up. We're in a space. We also have a microphone that we plug into it, that sort of thing. But we wouldn't have gotten there if we had just waited till you wouldn't figure it out. And so you got to start somewhere. It's okay that it's not the best quality. Just keep in mind that quality does matter, and so try to take small improvements to get better. But I would definitely start, because the only way to get better is to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that quality still matters regardless of what equipment you have. Even if you're just using your phone, I think there's a huge difference in just doing something just off the cuff and actually planning it. I think we've all seen the Facebook Live videos where I can't really demonstrate it on this, but like someone's looking down at it, so it's like looking up at their neck and up at their chin and up their nose, and it looks awful. Versus actually setting it up, you can buy a tripod for a phone that costs like $10
and
or
that
something.
way the camera's not moving.
Yep, it's right in front of you. It's steady.
Yep.
And you pay attention to lighting, like you said, what's behind you. There's different things you can do to make it look much better than just like. So I don't think anyone's going to stop at a live video that looks like someone's just holding the camera and looks like they're just doing it off the cuff.
Right.
But if you actually plan out what's around you and make it look like this was a planned thing and this is something that we're stopping for, even if you don't have all the money in the world, it's something you can still do and still get people to stop.
Yeah, and two, what we always talk about is content. So if you go back to episode 20, we talked about 3 resources to help your church communications. That was one of the things we talked about, was that you just want to produce content. So I would start somewhere, and that's how you can get better. But just know that quality does matter, and that if you do improve your quality, that will help your chances of connecting with people.
Right.
So that's number 2, video quality matters. Number 3 is consistency. And so here's what we mean. So we've changed it. We've done it twice a week, once a week, different things. Again, right now, as of this recording, we do it once a week on Thursdays at noon. Sometimes we have to change it, but most often it's at noon.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of people know that it's happening. But when we mean consistent, we don't just mean like every single week. As you were saying before we recorded, it's also like maybe you can't do it every single week, but doing it like once every 6 months. Like it's just kind of like people don't know what to expect. And this also goes back to the engaging piece. You got to be consistent in doing it somewhat consistent, but also in the type of content that you're producing. So if you produce a really awesome video, but all the other videos stink, and everyone's used to like knowing that you're just going to like talk for 2 minutes about nothing, they're not going to watch this really awesome video.
Yep.
And so you want to kind of try to produce Facebook Live videos that people will get trained on. Oh, when this person is posting, I'm going to watch. I'll use the example. I don't know if you follow John Crist on Instagram. He's a comedian. You should follow him. His Insta stories are awesome. And because he's always so funny, whenever I see his Insta story, like he has new ones, even if it's like 20 of them, I'm like, I'm going to watch it later. Like he's the only person that I will watch every single one of his Insta stories because they're always funny and they're engaging. And so when you're kind of like, well, we'll Facebook Live this random thing and then this random event and then this random thing, people aren't trained to know that what you're going to do is good. So they're most likely just going to skip it.
Yeah, and just for your own benefit, I mean, we didn't really talk about this much, but why to do Facebook Live? Facebook prioritizes live videos over everything else. So you'll automatically get bumped up. So you should do it consistently just for the sheer fact of...
Right, that's how it is right now.
And that helps you the most because people are going to see that much more than pictures or recorded videos that you do. So yeah, it doesn't need to be the same time every week. You don't need to like send out a schedule to everybody, but do it enough so that people look for it, or people when they see it, they know that, hey, this is going to be decent because they did the other things and they make engaging content. And so this is worth watching. Where if you do it, like you said, every 6 months or every year, who knows if it's engaging? And it's just, it might as well just keep going.
Yeah, and it's like, even if we were to every once in a while do another Facebook Live video, I still think, because everyone's trained to know our Thursday Facebook Live videos are practical tips on how to do life stuff, that they would still know, oh, Thursday, it's still good. But I'm curious what this other thing is, but they're going to know what it is because we're consistent with it, especially on Thursday. It may even pique their interest. Why are they doing it live another time?
Right.
But to do it every once in a while on just random things, that's not a good strategy, and it trains people to know, I'm not sure if this is worth watching or not, so I'm just going to skip it.
Yep.
So those are 3 tips to help you kind of utilize Facebook Live better. Again, create engaging content, lists. People love lists. So whatever it is, even if it's super theological, if you can make it into a list, people will listen to it.
That's right.
Number 2, video quality matters. You got to start somewhere, but the only way to get better is to do it, but it does matter. And number 3, be consistent, somewhat consistent in your posting and in the types of live videos you produce.
Yep.
So thanks for being with us today on Practical Church Planting. As always, you can go to practicalplanting.com/questions if you want to submit any questions you want us to answer. And if you didn't know, on Facebook, there's a Practical Church Planting group.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. So join the group, search it out. We talk about stuff about church planting all the time, questions, and just a community to get connected with. So check that out as well.
For sure.
So thanks for being with us. We'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.